This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome back to the Hockeytown West Podcast, your source for everything Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
And we are joined again by our Toledo insider, Mr. Travis. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
You know, I'm exhausted. But, you know, we'll make it through this. Nick, how are you, sir?
I'm better than I was yesterday. Driving to Detroit and back was kind of a pain in the butt. And with the loss as well, did not help.
Yeah, it's your fault they lost.
I didn't even realize Ovi had scored until we were walking out of the stadium. I was like, why are they interviewing him? Oh, he had the second goal. Okay. Didn't even connect.
Clearly, you were very focused on the game in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yes, and we'll try not to be too focused on the game for Detroit going on right now as we look at it. But this episode, we have nothing really new Griffins to talk about because they haven't played all week. The only change that's happened is Zach Aston-Reese got called up, and he'll most likely be back maybe by the time this episode comes out. Nothing Griffins. We're going to go strictly Walleye here today, and that is why Travis is here with us. So we got a whole crazy week in Iowa that the Fish spent down there, and it seems like, just through quick glance, it looks like a pretty good week they had down there. Would you say so?
I would say so. For the second time this year too, because they swept them in December out there.
So what do they just like to go spend a full week out in Iowa and just go back to back to back to back like that? Is that just how the schedule works for them?
I think so. Maybe with travel, that would probably be the best option to go that far and play 3 games and then come home.
It does make sense. Is Iowa still dealing with this injury call-up situation that they were dealing with way back when we jumped into talking about them before, where the Iowa Wild had called up everybody and their mother from the Heartlanders, and the Minnesota Wild had called up everybody and their mother from Iowa? Is that still a problem for them, or are they kind of back to basics?
I'm not really sure, but they're dealing with something, because at the beginning of the year they were off to a decent start, and it just kind of went downhill pretty quick. Yeah,
it went downhill real quick from what it looks like. But let's jump into these games here, and we'll start with the Wednesday game, right? Toledo ends up winning this one 5-1. What were your takeaways from this game?
They dominated this whole game. I mean, I remember texting you guys that Hawkins scored, Doucette scored, Craig scored, and then Doucette scored in the second period, and Bliss scored, and it's 5-0. I was like, yeah, this is a runaway. I was like, this game's over. Yeah. They just ran away with this one from the start. And, Hawkins, goal and an assist in this one. Bliss, goal and an assist in this one. Oh, sorry, goal and 2 assists in this one. And Doucette, goal and an assist. I'm happy with those results there. Bednar stopping 36-37 in this game. Just another really solid game from them. The weirdest part that I took away from the stat sheet going over this one was no power play opportunities for the Walleye at all. Right.
0-for-0 in this game, but Iowa had 3. It's not something you see very often in the ECHL.
No, it's not common. But I will say the one thing we do have to point out is the assist that Hawkins had on the Doucette goal. That was crazy.
What happened?
I mean, he had the puck and he does a 360 on the side of the crease area, slides it across to Doucette, and is just tap in basically. But the skill involved is it's okay, this is silly. You can tell why he's leading the league in points, and probably in the eyes of everybody in Toledo should win the MVP.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense when you look at the numbers and, the eye test obviously as well. I mean, 92 points in 69 games so far this season, just absolutely unreal. And I mean, that line together, having him out there with Doucette, and it's usually him, Doucette, and who else?
Centazzo normally.
Okay. I mean, that's just a line that's going to be absolutely lethal in the playoffs from everything I see and what we're looking at going forward here. everything they've shown me all season long is that they're just going to be absolutely dominant.
Bliss and Hawkins, I think it's just plug and play. You could put anybody on that other wing, and you're going to see some offensive creativity just with the creativity that they have with two of those players. And there's so many guys that are gifted offensively on that team. You could probably plug any off forwards into that spot and you'd see success.
Yeah, I like that. Nick, anything you want to add to this game?
I see they got outshot, but it was like 37-25 in favor of Iowa.
The game never felt close though. Like despite them being outshot like that, it was like halfway through the first, it was like it's 2-0. But my gosh, this is crazy. I didn't think for a second they were going to lose that game.
Dang.
You know, I like that though. Like you could be outshot but still dominate a game like this, and like if you're giving the fans that feeling that you're not going to lose even though you're kind of getting outplayed in some aspects of it. I mean, I guess only outplayed in the shot category, but outside of that, like Toledo walked them up and down the ice from what I understand.
Do you feel like Bednar like stood on his head? Is that why you guys felt like it was confident that the game was out of?
It just felt like anything, especially in the first, just felt like anything they were throwing on net had a legit chance to go in the net. And I don't know if that's just Iowa's goaltending was a little subpar, or the bounces are going their way, but it had to feel like just an avalanche on them poor Heartlanders because it was just domination, really. And I mean, the 5-1 final, I went to bed after the second period because we had to get up early, and I looked at the score and I was thinking maybe it was going to be like 8-1, and it stayed 5-1. But still, gotta love to see that kind of a game like that.
I absolutely love to see games like that, especially like as we're getting closer to the playoffs for this team. I mean, we're only a week away really from playoffs starting, and to see just the consistent good offensive play, but good defensive play and great goaltending, all just mixing, all gelling at the exact time that they need to. I'm way more confident right now in this team than I was November. Like I was very worried for what the future of the team looked like in the playoffs. And I don't know. I'm very confident at this point that they could break Pat Mikish's USHL playoff streak where the first round exits unfortunately seemed to haunt him during that time. I don't think that's going to be an issue this year.
Yeah, I think the whole city hopes that they can turn his fortunes around in the playoffs from what he's had in the past.
And him to turn around their fortunes too, because they want to get to that cup.
It's cup crazy. It's going to get a little crazy next Friday. It's all of a sudden it's here and playoffs are here and the fans expect even more. Especially after last year when they won 8 straight to open the playoffs, back-to-back sweeps. So
that was wild. That was absolutely insane. We didn't really know how to process what was happening at that point. Like life didn't make sense, but it was really cool.
Well, they had the long winning streak to be in the middle of the year, and then all of a sudden they're 8-0 in the playoffs, and it's like, oh my God, is this about to be another 16-game winning streak, and they're just going to sweep the playoffs? And it didn't happen.
Could you imagine?
Oh.
Like, there's no way that's ever happened in the history of the league. No way.
I can't think so.
There's no way. But anyways, after, losing 5-1, knowing that you're playing the same Iowa team that coming weekend, Friday and Saturday, you think that team after losing is going to come back and they're going to put up a big fight. And you pull up the game sheet for the Friday game and Toledo won this one 5-3. Like, okay, cool. There was no fight. Awesome. Well, okay, there was a little bit of a fight.
Like a couple of
guys. Yeah, a couple of guys tried to carry the team in the third there. They tried to do their best Lucas Raymond impression and carry their team, and it didn't work. But run me through this one here, because I see goals again from Bliss, Hawkins. But I see a new guy on there that got his first goal of the season.
Yep, Gilmore got his first of the year. One of the college free agents they signed. It's good to see that. And another college free agent, Wilms, I think.
I'd go Wilms. That name looks like Wilms to me.
Yeah, he got his second assist of the year. So the college kids are starting to chip in. And then obviously Iowa rattled off 3 in a row and made it interesting before Centazzo sealed it late. I Yeah, it was a nice empty net goal too. He had to work for it a little bit at the far blue line. Got through a couple guys and then put her away.
What do you think led to that like charge from Iowa there in the third? Because you see a goal scored at 9 minutes, 32 seconds of the period, 13:21, 17:05. Like they kind of just got hot there for a minute and it got really consistent. What happened?
I think it's just a matter of you get one, you get a little confidence, and then if you get that second one, it's like, okay, now we're only down 2, and then the third one goes, and it's like, oh boy, we got a shot here. And thankfully Toledo locked it down and put the empty net goal in and sealed the W. But it definitely can just carry over. Once you get one, there's a little bit of momentum. Then you get the second one, and weird things can happen.
We see that
all of a sudden you got a tight game and you're like, oh boy, we gotta lock it down here.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to see that they were able to. I mean, Bednar in this one got the start again, stopped 21-24. Question for you though. I noticed looking at the game sheet for Wednesday and then Friday, John Lethman wasn't on the sheet on Wednesday and was back obviously on Friday, but was there an injury that we don't know about or something happened?
I heard maybe sickness. I can't confirm that. I think it was maybe an illness that he just didn't travel. They signed an emergency goaltender from out there that was like, I think like late 30s, early 40s. And
yeah, I saw the signing and then he got dropped like pretty much right when Lethman was back on the sheet. So
yeah. So, I mean, it's cool for that guy. I mean, you get to dress for a couple games. I wonder if he gets to keep the jersey.
You know, you'd hope they'd be nice enough to at least let him keep the jersey. Come on. I
think it came up missing, to be honest.
That or it'll be the first one off the shelf for the end of the year jersey sales because it's a rarity.
That's fair. That's fair.
Probably goes for like $2,000 on the auction.
Oh, the Dash app. That one won't be sold.
Craziness. Anything else you wanted to add to this game though? Besides obviously, first 2 wins of this trip in Iowa, or first 2 games of this trip in Iowa, they come out with 2 wins, and things are looking good for them still.
Record-setting night for Hawkins. He broke his own record from last year when he had 39 goals. He hits the 40 mark this year, and then he also set the points record in this game for a single season. So just keeps climbing the ladder, and he's getting closer to that all-time. Yeah, he had 39 last year, and then he's got 40 this year. So.
No, I mean the points record. Didn't he set that last year too?
No, I don't believe so.
No?
That was this year. Yeah.
My God.
And he's getting close to like breaking the all-time goals record in like almost 100 less games or so.
Jesus.
Is that in all-time ECHL or Toledo record?
Just the Walleye.
Okay, gotcha.
But either way, that's crazy to think about. Like,
yeah, it's insane.
It's silly. Like, I just can't get over how good of a shot that guy has. Like, he's a offensive weapon from anywhere on the ice. Like, if you catch a goalie sleeping, I guarantee you could score from center.
Has he done it yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe
it's a new challenge for him.
Yeah, maybe we throw that challenge out to him.
Catch a goalie sleeping and get one in from center ice. Come on, Hawk. Let's see what happens.
Did you guys watch the video I sent you from a couple years ago in Fort Wayne? Like, he basically reverse Michigan'd it across the crease. Like, the skill is just silly. And
that's one of the most unreal goals I've seen. Like, it defied physics to me. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
And he just stood there in the corner and was like, "Yep, I just did that."
It's crazy, but then I also look at it and think of the kids that he's surrounded with right now, like Bliss and Doucette and Riley. Like, those guys are learning so much from him. At least I hope they are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see how they wouldn't be, and just how they can continue to work and perfect their shot. And I just hope that they take every little bit of information they can get from him and continue to put that into their game and run forward with it and carry that on into hopefully Grand Rapids next year.
Well, look at who he learned from the last couple of years with Hensick, right?
Yeah.
That's a great veteran to learn. I mean, just how to be a professional, which I'm sure he already knew how to be a good pro, but you're seeing even more from, they had Albert and Hensick last year. Hensick not as long, but even the year before when Hawkins was here, it's just so that tradition of being a good leader and mentor to younger players is, I'm sure, he's carrying the torch now.
I like it. It's one of those things where I really wish they would just name a captain for this team. I can't believe they still haven't.
Yeah, it shocked me when they went 2 alternates at home and then 2 different ones on the road. That really surprised me. I think everybody was ready for him to have the C, but I guess, we'll find out maybe next year. Because he said in the Hook series he wants to play here for like the rest of his career. At least that's what it came across as.
It'd be cool to see them make that decision before the playoffs.
It'd be like an extra spark, just.
I like that idea. Pat, if you're listening, you're welcome.
Be like in Mighty Ducks 3 when they give Conway the C as he's going onto the ice with like 30 seconds left in the JV varsity showdown game.
There we go. I love it. Let's make it happen. Come on. That's such a great reference. Oh, that made me so happy. All right. One more game in Iowa. Again, you win the first 2. You think, all right, Iowa's got to put up a fight and make this interesting. And Toledo wins on Saturday 4-1.
Yep. That's just the whole, okay, we're going to just finish this off and we're going back home.
Yep. I mean, you got goals in this one from Keenan, Craig, Santazo, and Wilms gets his first as a Fish. So good trip to Iowa for him. He got a couple assists. He got a goal. Like, it was an empty net goal, but at the same time, it's a goal. I like it. I mean, one of the probably greatest goal scorers of all time, scored quite a few empty netters, in his time. Ovi, looking at you.
Hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many. So
absolutely. My favorite part, though, that I pulled from this game sheet was Bednar started all 3 games in Iowa. He won all 3 games in Iowa. Granted, a shaky third period on the Friday game, but then stops 33-34 on Saturday. Just another solid game from him. And I don't think we've seen him carry that much workload this entire season.
Not that I can remember. I mean, it's always been kind of flip-flop back and forth. And, it's great to see him playing the level that he's playing at right now, going into the most important time of the year. To go out there, win 3 games, that's huge for not only him, but for the team, right? I mean, to see a rookie goaltender go out there, and he finally got over the 900 save percentages for the season. So that's awesome. You love to see that.
Yeah, his development path this year, it reminds me so much of Kos last year, but obviously not at the same level that Kosa was bringing to the table towards the end of the season, but it's pretty dang close. Like, I don't know. It's something really interesting to watch. He's probably the most forgotten Red Wings goalie prospect in the system. No one seems to remember his name. They remember Kosa. They remember Augustine. They forget Bednar exists.
I think it's maybe because, he was a mid-round draft pick, but hey, sometimes them mid to late round picks can be them diamonds in the rough. Not saying that's, he may not have that ceiling, but even if, he develops into a really good American League goaltender that, if on an emergency basis, if he gets a call, he could either back up a goaltender in Detroit someday, or if he does leave the organization, another organization, ultimately you want the best for the player.
Yeah, I think if he ends up developing into that, like, that 1A role in Grand Rapids, that's huge for where he ended up coming from. Like, if he can get to that point, like, that's huge to me. So I'm excited to see him playing this well. And the whole team just playing well overall. Like, it's just insane right now. Nick, I feel like you haven't talked, so add something here, buddy.
Well, I was going to talk about Bednar because I'm looking at these 3 games in Iowa, And then you call it out the last game, and I'm like, what's going on here? Is Lethman sick? Is he injured? What's going on? Has Bednar just taken the reins and become the number one goalie? Like, do you think he's he's the starter for the playoffs?
I don't know what to expect. I really don't. I mean, I look at Bednar's last 7 starts, right? 7-0-0, 939 save percentage. That's a big deal, right? You know, you win your last 7 starts. Granted, 3 of them were just this weekend, but still, you got to win the games. And 939 save percentage is really, really good.
Is the team feeding off of this as well? Like, are they more confident when he's back there than Leth, or do they play differently?
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like no matter who's in net right now, they're winning games. You know, you win 12 in a row and things are going the right way. It's part of it, I suppose. I mean, that's the big question, right? Who's going to start game 1 of the playoffs? And next Friday at 7:15, we'll find out.
That's fair. And I like to keep it like that, keep it interesting. And that's not to say that Johnny's played bad. Like the later half of the season here, Johnny's really turned it on and kind of been back to his usual self. Like where he's playing like we're used to seeing him play. I don't have his stats for, his last few starts, but he's definitely playing better than he has at the start of the season right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think like I said, the last time I was on, defensively, they're playing a lot better, and the goaltenders are really benefiting from it as a whole.
Do you think it's more of like the team just gelling together now? Because like we kind of saw that like the beginning of the season here in Grand Rapids is the team was kind of a mess. Everybody was just trying to figure each other out. They're trying to figure out Dan Watson. They're trying to figure out the system, all these new players. And then you got Kosa, who wasn't doing super great. And then after Christmas, the light switch came on and they went on this crazy roll. Do you feel like now they've kind of adjusted to Pat? Like it just took a little bit longer than what the Griffins did here with Dan Watson?
It's hard to say, right? Because it's been such a roller coaster season because they started out so well and they had the month-long point streak, and then it got rough for a little while, and now we're rolling again. So I think it's just part of a season, right? You go through great patches, you go through rough patches, and Toledo's great patches have been long.
Yeah. Well, this is the best time to go into with a great patch.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of going into it, because the playoffs are what we want to talk about next, but we got to send it over to DraftKings first, meet our sponsor obligations there. When we come back, we'll dive into the playoffs and some other ECHL updates that we've got to talk about because they're wild. So first, Nick, go read the ad.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. With Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat all back and ready from the All-Star game, you've got good choices to make bets on them. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crowd is yours. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. In Connecticut, help it go for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Will Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. cdkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
And welcome back. Well, we were just talking about the terrible weekend the Iowa Heartlanders had, and happened to refresh Twitter during the ad break and saw that their weekend was a little worse than we thought. 3 of their players got arrested in downtown Iowa City, so including their captain. So that's a rough way to end that weekend. I'm not going to joke about that too much because it's a serious matter. It's an actual thing, but oof. That's thank God they're not in the playoffs, right?
A lot of losses there.
It's just a little bit. But speaking of playoffs, so the Walleye start officially not this week, but the following week. We don't know who they're playing yet. We really would like to know who they're playing. But Travis, give me an update. What are we looking at playoff wise right now?
Well, you're still looking at the same race, right? You're probably going to get anybody of Wheeling or Kalamazoo or Fort Wayne, but Fort Wayne's looking a little less likely after last night. They got beat.
I see that there. So the standings go Toledo in first in the Central. Indy is clinched in the second. And then Wheeling and Kalamazoo seem to be battling it out down there for third and fourth. And maybe Fort Wayne. That Fort Wayne Kalamazoo race is going to be interesting.
Well, they played Toledo twice, so Toledo could just bury them.
Or
Toledo loses 2 in a row and gets them into the playoffs.
And then buries them.
They were not. I think they're like 9-1 against them this year.
I'm playing chess here while the other teams are playing checkers, you know?
I don't know, because I think the fans would freak out. Like,
oh, instant panic if they drop 2 games. Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Lose the last 2 games, and it's like, oh, here we go.
Somehow it'll be Lalone's fault, right?
I do want to point out one thing.
Yes.
Or 2 things. If Kansas City loses either in the first or second round, the path to the cup comes through Toledo.
I thought it always did.
Well, technically, no, with Kansas City having more points, but I see what you did there. And the second thing is they currently have 6 players with 20 goals or more. And if Alex Doucette gets 1 goal and Brandon Cruz gets 2 goals in the next 3 games, they will have 8 players surpass 20 goals this year. So cross our fingers.
That's awesome.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, 6 is pretty awesome itself, but to put 8, that's crazy. That's almost 3 full lines of.
It's crazy. I'm looking at the conference, like the Western Conference right now. Kansas City, like they're a wagon, like 9-1-0 in their last 10 right now, going into the playoffs here, which is crazy. 114 points on the season.
Guess
Toledo's obviously second.
Guess who the loss was? Fort Wayne beat them 1-0.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it was 1-0.
Okay,
I think it was Wednesday, or no, last weekend. It was recent.
Interesting. Well, so you look at Kansas City and Toledo are the top 2 teams in the West. Then Idaho is in there in third, and then 4th through 8th is the Central Division.
Yep.
The Mountain Division is basically the rest of the bottom there, except for Iowa. They're mixed in that too.
And 2 of them teams are going to make the playoffs in the Mountain Division.
So what you're saying is the Mountain Division finals are probably Kansas City and Idaho.
Probably. The Central Division's probably like sitting here thinking like this format is not cool right now, because if this was in 1 through 8 format, we'd have more teams in it.
You'd have every team but one in the Central in the playoffs. Every team but one in that entire division would be in. That's insane.
I think we all know who the one is.
We won't drag them too much more. They're having a rough time, okay? But outside of that, I'm gonna test your knowledge here, because I want a Toledo deep run, right? Like I've already said, I want them to win the whole darn thing. I was the only one that committed to that on our Toledo special. Just want to point that out. When it comes to the East, what are we looking at over there, to your knowledge? And if you don't know, you could just say you don't know.
Well, Florida gets in. They've won the last 2 Kelly Cups, so you're going to have that monster for starters.
Okay. I don't like that.
Norfolk, they're top in their division, top 2, I believe. They were in town earlier this year, and that was a pretty interesting series against them. That got a little physical, if you guys remember.
I do remember that. There was a lot of penalties in those games.
Yeah, those are the 2 that kind of really stick out to me that I can think of off the top of my head. Greenville, they're pretty good this year. We just played them on the Southern trip.
They're still rocking Ryan Bednard as a goaltender, who Griffins fans might remember from last year. He was one of the late season signings out of the 16 goalies we trialed out last year.
That'd be interesting finals, wouldn't it? Bednar versus, what is it, Bendard?
Bednard and Bednar. Yeah, let's not do that. Like, that just sounds like a podcast editing nightmare. Like, no.
I wouldn't be able to keep up.
Yeah, no. So going into the playoffs, I think one thing that we haven't talked about in the ECHL is that there was a team on the outside looking in that had a chance to make it, but that team just doesn't exist anymore. They're gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
So walk us through the situation that happened in the ECHL, because we paid attention a little bit to it. Everyone's kind of seen it, but like, help us non-ECHL versed people understand what happened.
So through the research I did, the Growlers and the Lions were owned by the same ownership group, and that ownership group was in some serious debt, and they were pretty much both going to be sold to the league, and then the league had final say whether to fold both of them, one of them. If a buyer couldn't be found, a buyer came in at the last minute and saved the Lions, and that is Spire Sports, I believe is who it is. And they also own the Greenville Swamp Rabbits and the Rapid City Rush. And the interesting thing about all this is, because Spire Sports own those three teams, they can't make any trades amongst each other.
How is that even possible that you could own multiple teams in the
same league?
Yeah. But like two groups now.
Yeah. It's so weird. And like with Newfoundland, some stuff that I read about them, they were required to subsidize airfare costs for teams going to Newfoundland. That was in an article per The Athletic. And they were also 22nd out of 28 teams in average attendance. So they averaging 3,724 people. So you don't have huge gate, right? In a gate driven league for the most part. And you're also having to pay teams airfare to come to Newfoundland. So it's kind of a recipe for disaster, I guess you could say. It's the third professional team that St. John's has had that hasn't made it. They had the Marlies original. Well, they were the Leafs, the St. John's Maple Leafs in 2005. They relocated to Toronto as the Marlies, and then they had the St. John's Ice Caps leave in 2017 to go back to Manitoba, and now the Growlers. They're no longer this year. But the commissioner did say in the actual article that they're hopeful hockey can return to the region for their dedicated and passionate fan base. So maybe down the road, obviously there's an arena there, but they'd have to figure out a more stable ownership, I would say.
That just sucks for the fans. Like it's like the Arizona situation. Like, I don't feel bad for the ownership at all. I just feel bad for the fans.
Right.
And the players.
Yeah, and the players, big time.
Which a few of them have landed with other teams in the ECHL, but I was really hoping Toledo would go after a couple guys there, but it doesn't sound like it's happening. Honestly, the one guy everybody wanted is from St. John's. So getting him to go to a different place this late in the year, is it really worth it to him? He may just listen, this is my hometown team. They're done. I'm done.
Oh, wow.
So that's crazy. It's also strange to hear these ownership groups owning multiple teams, because I want to say it's Fort Wayne's ownership group is also the owners of the new team that's coming in Illinois.
Indy. I think it's Indy.
Or is it Indy?
I think so.
One of those two.
The Bison.
Yeah. The Bison, yeah. So like, it's such a weird league how you just own multiple teams, but you can't trade between those teams. That's a written rule, right?
I learned that yesterday when I was going through this for Newfoundland, and I don't know how to say it because it's French, but I just call it Troyes Rivers.
That would be about the best pronunciation I can give you there.
Do you foresee, like, this is odd that they folded at the season's still going on. They couldn't finish out the regular season. But for next year, then with this Buffalo team coming in from Indy, do you foresee them realigning the divisions, the conferences? Do you think this is going to affect the Walleye at all?
Yeah, I mean, you could see a shuffle for sure. I think Toledo actually used to be in what was the North Division. That was a little before I started to really pay attention to Toledo. I would just go to games casually, and now that I'm a little more invested. But I do believe at one point they were in the East, so it may have a trickle-down effect with them. Or they just might go one team short in the North Division and realign maybe a team in the Central to the West or something. I don't know. It's so spread out, right? Like there's no, like the Mountain Division is the Mountain Division. They are a ways away. It's not like, I think the closest team to us is Kansas City. And they used to be in our division.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It's crazy that both the teams on the brink of folding were in the same division. That's super, super weird to me. It'll be interesting to see, though, what happens as well. Like, I know the Utah Grizzlies have been a successful organization for a long time, but if all of the rumors in the NHL are true and there's an NHL team coming to Salt Lake City, I see that impacting the Utah Grizzlies pretty greatly. Like, fans only have enough money to go around to go to games. And if they're going to jump in and be passionate about a team, I think they're going to jump on that NHL team.
Or do the Grizzlies, do they go to the American League and have their affiliate right there? You know what I mean? Like, not saying it's going to happen. It has happened out of the ECHL before. I think the most recent team to do it is the Colorado Eagles. They had just won a Kelly Cup, so I don't know how much precedent they put on winning to move up, but I mean, a lot of teams have their farm teams right there. Like Calgary is both, San Jose has both. Vegas is only separated by like a half hour. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are pretty close together. Now, granted, this is all just speculation with Utah still. And here we are talking about the ECHL and a team moving up. But I wouldn't say it's impossible. But I know that the commissioner of the ECHL has said there's 32 NHL teams. We want to get to 32 ECHL teams so everybody can have their own affiliate and there's no more sharing of affiliates. Which brought me to my question too, is Newfoundland, did they have an affiliate or no? They were with Toronto.
Oh, was there any prospects or any players that were under contract?
Oh, there was a few. I forget exactly how it went this year, but it seemed like the Marlies released about a dozen, if not more, players to Newfoundland at the start of the season.
Oh wow! So where did those guys go?
The NHL, AHL contracted players could not sign ECHL deals. That was part of the termination, but they get to keep their insurance. I believe it was into June, and they're paid through the first of the ECHL playoffs, first round.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an interesting situation.
And the Troyes River team, their affiliate agreement with Montreal ends this year. So they have to now negotiate either an extension with that or find another team, which it makes the most sense to be in Montreal. It's right next to Montreal. Yeah. It's not far from Montreal.
That's a newer team too, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not that old. They're only a couple of years in.
I was going to say.
I think they played in the playoffs last year. It was either last year or the year before. Those two teams played against each other.
Oh, man. Another point I want to hit on, because you brought it up, is like the ECHL commissioner mentioning like they want to have affiliate team for NHL team. They want to have enough to match, right? And now you're down another one, as they've already, like, you have Lake Tahoe coming. You have whatever the team in Illinois, the Bisons, or whatever city they were going to be in. I can't remember. And now we're back down another team. Like, where do they go next? Like, I don't understand.
Just trade Tucson for Utah until Arizona comes back into the NHL after they buy the land and build the new arena and they're an expansion team. We can cause all the chaos here.
I don't know. I didn't hate the idea of Utah being in the AHL because that just goes back to the IHL days there. And I'm here for that.
But just think about that, right? You got like the old classic 1-for-1 hockey trade, and it could be Tucson goes to the ECHL and Utah goes to the AHL.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tucson because, I mean, that's Arizona's affiliate, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of weird shakeups over the next 2 years. I really don't understand what's happened. I think the best question to ask that is the NHL, I know we're talking about ECHL, but is the NHL trying to grow too much?
I think 36 is perfect, personally.
Sorry, let me rephrase it. Is the NHL trying to grow too much to where the minor leagues can't keep up with the demand to match affiliations, to where it's at least profitable to the owners to be able to do that?
Yeah, that'd be a good question, right? I mean, it sounds like, based off of speculation, you're going to get a team in Utah, and then it sounds at some point Utah is going to be in the league. That's almost a forgiven at this point, it seems like. And then if they relocate Arizona, the league loves that market, and I think they'll go back to that market. And then they've already talked about Atlanta again for the third time. And then what's left? Well, there's only really one place, and that would be Quebec, right? Like,
that's where we should be talking about from the get-go, but for some reason we're not.
There's your four, right? There's 2 in the West, 2 in the East. You're done and it's over with. You have 36, and then the ECHL and the American League they'd have to probably reevaluate a few things with, right? I mean, the Wolves, they don't even have a affiliate this year. They went rogue, and it didn't really work out for them.
No, it has not. But I was just looking up. I wanted to see the attendance for Tucson. And they're at the bottom of the league. The Barracuda, Belleville Senators, Utica, Bridgeport, Manitoba, and then Tucson. And they're averaging about 39.96.
That's more than a lot of ECHL teams, or some.
It's more than what they hold at Mullet Arena. Just kidding.
It's close to capacity, actually.
Well, I didn't even realize the Coyotes weren't. I didn't even realize the Coyotes weren't selling out Mullet this season. Like, they actually weren't selling it out.
I think that's why they kind of pulled the plug yesterday.
Yeah, and I completely understand why. And I mean, I'm for it. I know the NHL loves that market. I don't think it can work. That's just me. Just being a negative Nancy.
The only place I think it would work is in Phoenix. I don't think Glendale's the answer.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, it has to be in Phoenix if they're going to do it.
Now, I seen a thing today, though, that apparently Glendale wanted to re-sign the Coyotes to a 12-year lease, but Bettman didn't think Glendale would work, and it hadn't worked. So then the debacle of we need an arena, and here we are.
They're all idiots is what it is. It's all a clown show at this point.
Right.
Oh,
I'm just disappointed because Phoenix finally got the right ownership. They've started drafting great players. They're getting a team together, and now they're shipping them to Salt Lake City. Like, that's what's been rumored. That's what's been reported. And I'm like, they finally got their stuff together, and now it's too little too late. So it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating for all the GMs because they're sharing the profits, and obviously Phoenix isn't getting the attendance, right? They're not selling out Mullet. They're basically getting all this free money and not really contributing to the pot. So on that part, it sucks. And then you gift Salt Lake City this fantastic built team that could perform here in the next 3 years. I don't think that they move them back to Phoenix.
I'm obviously confident what they could do, especially under a Utah Jazz ownership group. That team's never won a championship, but they sell out almost every single game. There's a waiting list for season tickets. Like, they know how to bring people in, and the hockey market that's suddenly developing in that mountain range area there. You've got Colorado doing the Colorado Avalanche things that they're doing now. You've got the Utah Grizzlies have existed for a while. They're a good organization. You've got Lake Tahoe coming into the picture now in the ECHL as well. And to add another NHL team out there, I think it just makes sense. I love it. And Travis, what did you say you want him to be named?
I'm here for the Utah Yeti.
I'm here for it. I missed the Cochina, but I'll take the Yeti.
I mean, you're losing an elite jersey, but you're gaining an elite name. And
Easiest
it's not
jersey sponsor in the world, too. Easiest one.
And
Yeti.
It's not plural, which I'm a big fan of.
Ooh.
Your last two, your two newest teams would be the Kraken and the Yeti. So we're getting crazy in the NHL.
Yeah, sorry, this conversation went off the rails, but
that will bring the Arizona UFOs back or something like that. The Arizona aliens, because they're so close to Rockwell.
I think they're going to be the Coyotes, bud.
I think they're going to push with like an alien's name. I don't know.
You imagine the Kachina with an alien look to it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm here for that, but I'm very here for that. All right, that conversation went off the rails talking about ECHL news and then all this, but that's what happens sometimes when we're doing this. So that wraps up the conversation, though, of playoffs and that ECHL news. But there was one other thing that we didn't get to talk about in the pod that happened in the ECHL that was a pretty big deal. And Nick, I want to hand this over to you for this one.
So since he dressed a lineup that has never been done in the ECHL, and correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but
I think hockey ever is the first time ever.
Oh, across all leagues.
Yes.
So take us into it.
So they dressed a lineup of 5 black players, and that is a very awesome thing, I think, for the game of hockey. How great for those players to be a part of something so impactful for this sport that we're all fans of, and we all want to just grow and become even bigger than it is.
Yeah. I mean, the saying hockey is for everyone has been an important one over the past few years, but sometimes you feel like nothing is really done to show that it truly is. And for Cincy to be able to put this together, and I remember reading some of the comments. They're like, oh, they just did this for show. But I mean, some of those guys have been in that team for a while. Some of them are leading in points in that team, great players and everything. And they didn't just do it for show. Like, these guys have earned their roster spot. And I'm glad Cincinnati has been the team that can set that example for everybody else to what hockey should and can look like.
I think it was cool too to listen to their head coach. I think his name's Jason Payne. His interview before the game with, what led to that and how it came to be. It was very awesome to hear him be so passionate about. So good on Cincinnati, really. I think that's awesome, really, personally.
Can you give us some insight on what was said?
Just like about how it started to become a reality with players that were going to be available to be signed. I think I'd have to watch it back to get it 100% right, but it was very awesome to hear him be so passionate about that, and just on Cincinnati to do something so impactful and great for the game of hockey as a whole.
Yeah, overall, just really good for Cincinnati to be able to do that. And what a great piece of hockey news, too.
Yeah, and Tampa had started a lineup of 3 black players, and the Ontario Reign did it as well in the American League, and then Cincinnati expanding to 5, including 2 defensemen. Just shows the growth we're getting in hockey and how awesome that is for the sport.
Yeah. Continue to grow the game. That's the most important thing. And, when we talk about expansions and teams being in the right place, you just hope that teams are in the right place to inspire more young kids to pick up the game and start playing, because that's what we want. We want as many young, talented kids to be jumping into this game. I know it's a hard game to jump into. It's not an affordable game, but usually when you get teams in the right places, there's enough charities and organizations set up that are only going to benefit that community through the teams. I mean, I look at what the Griffins do with the Griffins Youth Foundation and how many kids are able to play youth hockey just based off of that foundation alone is absolutely insane. So that's a pretty common practice when it comes to hockey teams as well. Most teams have something like that. So
Toledo does
put them in. Yep. Yeah. Put them in more places like that where we can grow the game, and here we go. I'm all for it. Perfect. Well, Travis, what's Toledo's schedule this weekend looking like?
They're in Wheeling tomorrow, which is Friday, and then they're home for their last home of the regular season Saturday against Fort Wayne, and then they're in Fort Wayne Sunday to end the season. So
the regular season.
Right. And then the most wonderful time of the year arrives.
What's that?
Playoffs.
I thought it was the Walleye Run.
Oh, that's going on right now.
I don't know what it is.
Nick waited until the end of the episode to bring that back up. I love it. We're gonna wrap this up so we can go teach Nick about fishing. Yeah. But yes, Toledo's playoffs do kick off on the 19th. Opponent to be determined still, but we know the town is going to go absolutely crazy for it, and it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. And I'm excited. Hopefully, we can get down there. Travis, if you had to explain to listeners that might be in Grand Rapids here and haven't been to a Walleye game, what is a Toledo playoff game like? What makes it so special?
Atmosphere. Like it's unbelievable. Like I've been to a couple Stanley Cup playoff games. Been to Columbus for one, Nashville for one, which is like the big one everybody wants to see, right? And I mean, I'd put the atmosphere in Toledo right there with some of the NHL. It's crazy. And the players in the past have even said it's an NHL atmosphere, especially in the playoffs. Like it's crazy. It's loud. It's just it's insane. And the whole city like just gets out of control crazy about it. It's hard to get tickets. Resale tickets, you're looking at $100. It's silly. For a $20 face value ticket, people start getting crazy on StubHub just to get tickets for Walleye playoff games. It's insane. I love it. I've told people for years, it's like, if you want to experience what like an NHL playoff game is, you can do it in Toledo for next to nothing if you get the tickets early enough. It's just what it is ultimately.
It's awesome. God, we need to make it to a game. We'll figure this out. We'll figure out our crazy lives eventually and make it down there for a playoff game. We have to. It's a must.
If they get Kalamazoo, I might have to make a trip up.
Oh, we'll be there for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up making a trip. You guys are going to be like, we're going. And I'm going to be like, 3-hour drive. Let's do it.
We're over here like, I don't know if we can do a 3-hour drive down there.
Yeah.
Well, I think my schedule is a little more flexible than your guys's on occasion. So
absolutely. All right. Well, with that, we will wrap up this Toledo update. Toledo Thursday. I didn't even call it Toledo Thursday in the episode, but that's what it is.
It can be Fish Friday.
Actually, you're right. This will be Fish Friday because it's coming out on Friday. Well, we will wrap this one up. Travis, as always, man, thank you for hopping on. It's always good to get your insight on the Walleye.
Anytime.
Yeah, no, thank you. And to wrap this up, thank you to Everything Hockey. Make sure you go to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Save 10% off your order. And shout out to DraftKings and the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic partners as well. Shout out to Nick for surviving his trip to Detroit and making it back to be able to record this. And shout out to all of you for listening. We appreciate all of you. Keep on listening. Keep sharing the show. Keep liking everything. Follow and subscribe. All the fun social media terms. We appreciate everyone, though. So with that, thank you. Go Griffins. Go Walleye. Please, Red Wings, get it together. And we will talk to y'all on Monday.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.